I started DTS Building Materials October 2018. Effectively, the plan, I've been selling windows and doors for most of my professional life. And I basically fell out with the business I was working with because I said, why aren't we doing this and only doing this? And they said, because we do this very well and we can't make any money off this. And I said, well, surely getting money off this second part is, even if we only earn 2 or 3%, is better than losing the order because we're letting another salesman. They said no, so I said bye. The sensible Dan left his job without a business plan, and subsequently found myself in a situation where the realization of what I had done had kicked in, and effectively worked out that I was going to run out of my money far quicker than the orders were going to come into fruition. To put it into perspective, the average windows and door order that I work with and the level I work with, it's between 3 and 6 months to go from order to delivery. Which means you go quite a long time working with the customer with no financial reimbursement. So we started DTS Building Materials to effectively bridge that gap. And I made it very clear from the very start that DTS Building Materials, is, as passionate as I am about serving the customers and giving a great customer service, it was always the business that I owned that had a price to it, or a out strategy, as it were. Now, what I've sort of discovered is actually I don't really need the out strategy. I just need to be smart about how I work. And subsequently, I set up a limited company, this White Storks Windows and Joinery business, in February of this year. Effectively, what I'm now doing is setting up the business that I want to run on a permanent basis. And then I'm going to have the DTS Building Materials. Basically, at some point, it will do a little bit of a flip, and the reliance on the financial implication of the business will fall onto White Storks and not DTS. And hopefully, they'll both perform okay. And eventually, I'll be able to drive a car that's got air conditioning, because at the moment my van doesn't have that, and it's not so fun to drive at the moment. So White Storks Windows and Joinery is the new business, and I'm hoping that if it all goes to plan and everyone sends me the images that I need, we'll be live by the end of next week. So watch this space. So what do? We do windows, doors and joinery. It's more than just your UPVC windows and doors. We work with proper, I'm going to call them artists, because what they do is more than just build your window. So you've got here, as an example on the right hand side, that's a timber joinery window. If you look at the joins sort of close up, you can see that it's all been finger jointed. It's actually multi-layered timber. So I'm going to go to the next slide so that you can see what we're sort of doing here. Effectively, we work with multi-jointed timber, which makes the timber very structurally strong. I'm sure you've all had experience with timber in the past where you buy a length of 2x4 or 4x2 or whatever in 4.8 metre length. You leave it outside and it turns into banana. The reason that happens is because the moisture content in the wood allows the timber to move and self-regulate a bit within itself. By multi-layering it, you effectively cross-hatch it to a point where it rubs up against itself. And because it's rubbing up against itself, it doesn't actually twist and warp and cause you any grief. By using a self-regulating paint, it allows the timber underneath it to do all the hard work, leaving the windows looking beautiful for years and years and years to come. To put it into perspective, we have to give a life expectancy of the window, and a timber window, we've put a life expectancy with good maintenance of 65 years. 65 years, it will outlive most people that can afford to put a timber window into their property. We work with a couple of Lithuanian factories that build on license for us. Everything's made to measure to the millimetre, and because you buy it through me and my relationship with my factories, if you want something a little bit weird and wonderful, you can have weird and wonderful. So if you look at the image there, you'll notice a very, very reflective sliding sash window at the bottom. They've had reflective glass put in, so effectively when you're walking past their house, you can't see in, they can see out. The sort of thing you see in the movies and police stations and things like that. We can actually install that into your windows so that you gain that level of privacy without having to obscure the glass, so you can still see out of the window, and they can't see in. We guarantee the windows for 30 years against rot and fungal damage. In reality, that's with the process that we put in place. They're the only two things that are really going to kill a window. So yeah, that's sort of the premium product that we sell. We sell quite a lot of them to homes in Surrey, and sort of the Knightsbridge area of London and things like that. But fundamentally, it's the sort of money that you invest into this. If you look at the shelf life of the window and divide that by the number of years that you're going to live in a house, it's still a very, very cost-effective way of putting windows and doors into your house. We also do a UPVC option. UPVC is UPVC, right? Wrong. UPVC profiles are all virtually identical, as I'm sure you can appreciate with the way that building regulations are and all that kind of thing. It has to meet a level of sort of standard. However, what I've found over the years working with different UPVC fabricators is fundamentally you end up with poor joins where the welds don't quite live up to what they're sort of meant to, and over time they can cause you grief. So I've spent a huge amount of time working with different fabricators to understand the product that I want to offer and what I want to put my name to. And I've got a factory in Sudbury, just outside of sort of between Ipswich and Colchester, who manufacture about 2,500 units a week. And because they can manufacture so much, they don't have that many issues. They've always got up-to-date machinery, and the welds are bang on. So yeah, we do a lot of UPVC because of the nature of the deal that I've got with them and who they are as a business. We're very, very, very competitive. So our supply and fit options are very competitive compared to some of the competition in the area. Obviously, we haven't got the overheads of a business that the likes of Softview and all that sort of thing have, where they've got showrooms dotted over the place. They've got showrooms dotted over the place, and they're paying for staff. Effectively, I work with trusted contractors. We're all certified for installation, so you still get all the government-backed guarantees and all that kind of thing, but you're not paying for the sort of the Rolls-Royce showroom that costs money. You know, you've got me and my expertise, and you've got a warehouse in the back end of an industrial estate that does the job. And fundamentally, after you've been through the experience with me, I'll do most of it in your house, and we've got software in place that can actually demonstrate it from the comfort of an iPad in your dining room, which makes it much easier because you don't really need to touch and feel UPVC. Everyone knows what a UPVC window is and what it feels like. We do an alley clad window. An alley clad window effectively gives you the warmth of a timber window, but the performance of an aluminium window. Everyone who knows anything about science knows that aluminium in its nature is a very cold product, and timber in its nature is a very warm product. So you put them together and you get a very warm product that's got the added weather protection that aluminium can give, being a metallic product. The beauty of the alley clad products that I offer is that they are all passive house ready, with U values as low as 0.8, which ultimately, to everyday Joe Bloggs builder who's building a house, it's not going to mean too much to most. However, what it does mean is the windows are working hard for you to ensure that you don't need to put your heating on if you don't need to put your heating on. The ventilation that we have to put into windows anyway will allow the air to circulate in such a way that, ultimately speaking, the windows work as hard as any of the other insulation that you put into your house. So in a nutshell, that's the alley clad. And then we do pure aluminium windows. So pure aluminium windows, they're the lowest of the U values that we offer as a core product. That they still meet all the building regulations and all the kind of good stuff that you need with there. But what you get with aluminium is extraordinarily sleek lines. You get optimal performance out of them because there's no weight to aluminium. And there's quite a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can achieve with it. So in how old am I? 6-7 years I've been dealing with windows and doors. 95% of all bifold doors that I do are aluminium, because the point of a bifold door is to bring the outside in. And what's the point of bringing the outside in and having huge frame in between? It just doesn't work. And you'll find on all the UPVC options, all the plastic options, and timber and aliclad, you've always got that sort of slightly larger sight line that you don't have to have using aluminium. So the image that's there is actually on the larger side of what we can offer, but we can actually offer a product that's got a 20mm sight line. So really optimizing the glass available sort of on display. But the beauty of it is it's actually, when you look at the window build up, the majority of the window's glass. The glass actually works harder than anything else in the window. So you get some really, really good performance numbers out of them. And if you are a particularly boring personality like me, I'd quite happily show you all the details on that. And then I suppose the last string to the bow is another business that I run, Glass Roof Systems. Glass Roof Systems fits in quite nicely with the DTS model and the White Sports model. And effectively, it does what it says on the tin. It's solutions for roofing glazing. So we do your fixed glazing, you do your opening glazing, we do actuator openings, we do frameless roof lanterns, we do frameless flat roof systems, as well as your sort of more traditional roof lantern with that you'd expect to see in an orangery and a posh wedding venue, for example. But in a nutshell, that's the new business and what I'm doing to drive forward. So the kind of person that I want is any homeowner or any builder that is looking to put in a window or door into any kind of opening, really. So yeah, that's end.
We're going to turn this part of the meeting over to a session to ask Dan about what we saw in his presentation and what's going on for him and his business, and just to sort of get some idea of the pressures he's under, sort of hints he might have for the rest of us, ask questions of him. So who would like to start?
I'll go first if you don't mind. Hello, Dan.
Hi.
We spoke before. I know you came in a while ago for your headshots, and I know your White Storms business is sort of imminently being launched. And we did speak about possibly some images for your website for that. In your presentation, you mentioned that you were waiting for some people to send you some images so that you could populate your website with some, graphics and images rather than just making it text heavy. Is that from your factories and people that you use?
Yeah, so effectively, the Glass Roof Systems business, that's me partnering with a guy called Chris. Chris runs a business called C&O Window Systems in Housestead. He also is my aluminium fabricator. So I've got invested interest in his aluminium fabrication doing well, because financially I need that to do well for my other business to do well.
Yeah.
So I get a good rate on that. Chris is inherently poor at marketing. They've got a very commercial background. So a lot of the business that they do is working with big developers, as it were, that do big high-rise commercial buildings. And therefore it's big project work, lots of manufacturing, go do the job, and then by the time they finish that job, the developer's on the next job. So it's just lots and lots of ongoing work. So they've always had this kind of sort of ongoing work, but they've not really needed to push. I've come in with a very retail background, and we've sort of gone, well, there's a synergy there. Let's put our brains together and let's push more of the retail side of things. I don't want to invest in the factory infrastructure. It's just not something I'm interested in doing. But I can buy using his factory rates, which makes me very competitive compared to most places in the country. And because it's just me, my margins are a lot lower than most anyway. So it's in that sense, it's that. But I have asked Chris to send me a list of customers that he's already sort of been in touch with that I can contact to go and photograph jobs, because they haven't got a bank of photography. So it's very much, to start with, to get the business launched, we're going to use the stock imagery available to us. And over the course of the next few months, it's just going to roll, and we'll replace it with actual projects that we've finished.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the way to go, because a lot of companies do use stock images, not just the building
It's
industry.
a pet
but all
hate of
industry.
mine. It's a pet hate of mine. I'm not a fan of
Yeah.
stock imagery at all.
The thing
The
is,
need that the White Storks business wasn't originally going to launch until probably next year, but I found that with all the uncertainty in the world at the moment, I just need to have all my options out on the table.
yeah.
But I have given Chris your number because I think he needs to get his whole team done as well.
Oh, excellent! Thank you for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, the stock images, you know, they solve a problem, so they do sort of enable you to have images on a site. But the problem is, a lot of other people can use exactly the same images. So if people are looking for a particular industry and they hit a few different websites just to check prices out and see what those companies are all about, if they see the same pictures, it really puts people off. So if you tailor it so that it's unique to you, they're your job.
All of the images that we use are unique to us. They're just, I mean, to take into consideration, like the 2 Lithuanian factories that I work with, all of the photos that you'll see on the website are photos that have been provided to them by their customers.
Right.
So they're 9 times out of 10, it's just an iPhone shot or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's pictures that are going on with that I've taken in their factory, for example, and things like that. So it's, in that sense, it's all our imagery, but it's not professional imagery. That I can't get a brochure made on the imagery that I've got. So I need to go out and take loads and loads of photos with a professional camera or a professional photographer that knows what they're doing with the thing that you put in your hand and press this. And actually get a decent bank of images that are not only very well taken, but actually consistent. So you're using the same focal points on different houses and things like that, so that when you have a brochure of images, it's not like it's a jumble sale of lots and lots of different people's work.
Cool. Excellent. Well, you know where I am if I can help with any of that.
The work's yours when I've got it. There's no arguing there.
Lovely. So August is going to be the launch towards the end of August?
Next week. I'm just waiting on half a dozen more images from my plastic factory. And then once they're on the website's 95% done. It's just a bit of SEO to do, but that can get done once the website's live. I've already got 4 or 5 orders to place over the next 4 weeks. So providing that nothing goes dramatically wrong in the next 5 weeks, we've got a business. So I've had to do all the painful stuff this week. Like I've had to get a bank account sorted. I've had to do all the VAT registration and all that kind of stuff as well. And I've got to work out how I invoice people, because the software that I've been using is bolted onto the DTS stuff, but I can't mess up the DTS numbers anymore because Lee, who isn't here today, is my accountant, probably hates me.
Oh, well, good luck next week. And, if I hear of any people, businesses or whatever that need it, I will certainly send them your way.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I need windows.
I need windows.
I need windows and a conservatory.
Awesome. Let's come on, 'cause I'm really keen to sort of find out more about what you do and how you differ from all other soulless estate agents.
Exactly.
My life.
Customer service. How does the Aluclad compare to the plastic price wise? Is it, obviously timber's up here, but where does it sit?
It's a misconception, really. So if you look at an average 4-bedroom house, for example, in UPVC you could do a whole 4-bedroom house with a front door and a French door for 4-5 grand. In aluminium, you take that to 8 to 10 grand. In timber, you take that from 10 to 12 grand.
Yeah.
And in Aluclad, you take it from sort of 12 to 14 grand. So it's not dramatically more in the sort of the scale of things, but what you get as you move up the scale is more for your money in terms of not only the product, but actually the life expectancy of the product.
Yeah.
So the Aluclad life expectancy is over 150 years because you haven't got the external maintenance to do that you would on a pure timber product, because the aluminium is so hard wearing. And because it is just a clad, bear with me a second.
He's got a sample.
Is it? Yeah. This is a prank now. It's disappeared for 5 minutes. We're just going to sit here all quiet.
Gone out for a long way.
There you go. Unmute, Dan. Unmute. You're muted.
Dan. Unmute, Dan. Unmute.
Sorry. So aluminium on the front, timber on the back. See the cross section there.
Yeah.
If this was to wear out, it does, and I don't know if this has been glued, but you can unclip this. So you could actually, in turn, redecorate your windows just by clipping on new aluminium.
Okay.
So the life expectancy of that is massive compared to everything else. I mean, timber's decent. You get 60 to 70 years on timber, generally speaking. UPVC's got a shelf life of about 20. And that's sort of the argument there is, if you're planning to live in your house, I mean, look at me, I'm 30, for example, I'm in a house. I'm going to have to change the windows on my house if I decide to live in my house. Whereas if I was to put timber in to start with, that would be it. I wouldn't have to do anything more. You just have to. It's a misconception that UPVC is maintenance free, because every single window requires the same amount of maintenance. It's keep the thing clean, and if it's got a moving part, make sure it's got oil on it, because they're the two things that will fail you, and that will be UPVC, aluminium, or wood. You know, you can still degrade UPVC by not cleaning the things, and you can force the hinges open if you don't oil the things, and that's the two main reasons that windows fail. The beauty of having timber over all of it, despite the fact it's that price point up, is the fact that if you do have a problem, this has been around being built out of for thousands of years, and if we all know that if you screw a hole into it and it's a hole in the wrong place, bit of clever filler work, and you've got yourself a fresh piece of timber.
And then on the business side, so how do you how you can offer your guarantees then? Because what most people say, you know, the guarantees are only for the life of the company. So, you know, if there's a, I don't know, a 10, 15, 20, 30-year guarantee, is that insurance backed? Is that how do we work?
Yeah, I'm so the business is fully insured through installation through a company called Certas. So it's all insured back guarantees with them. It's a competence thing. But fundamentally, if that's part of the reason why I'm not actively getting involved in the manufacturing, if I decide overnight to close the business, what you'll get is, in turn, availability to go and talk to the factories. The factories aren't going to go bust anytime soon. I mean, the factory I have the timber made out of, just to put it into perspective, that's made by the same company that own Velux. They ain't going bust anytime soon. They've got hundreds of millions of pounds in the bank. So although the guarantee comes through me and the backings that I've got, if it was all to go pear-shaped, we've got much bigger companies at the other end. So Eurocell make the plastic profile that I use. If everything was to go wrong, Eurocell are the sort of the end line. So they'll offer the guarantee if everything failed. And it's the same. So we use Raynars for our aluminium. If I go bust, my fabricator goes bust, Raynars are still going to uphold the guarantee. So there's multiple layers between me and protecting you.
Okay. Thank you.
Dan, when we went into lockdown, you were sort of forced to put people on sort of furlough and make redundancies and whatever. I mean, have you now got plans to eventually sort of bring people back on, and what sort of signs are you looking for to sort of say to yourself, yeah, it's okay to do that?
So I've been talking a lot to lots of different people about it. Fundamentally, the business is almost back to where we were when I made the decision to hire the team initially. It's not quite there, but it won't take us long to get there. And I've kind of hit the big pause button on growing the business any further at the moment, because I'm quite content just working for myself. It's allowing me, as a creative mindset, to throw as much rubbish at the fan as I want to, and sort of pick and choose the work that I want to do to sort of drive the future. I feel like we're in this almost this really safe position, especially till October, because I can stay semi-furloughed if I want to for another 2 and a bit months. And so I've always got this little bit of passive income from the government keeping me afloat for a couple more months while I kind of really decide what I want to do. But fundamentally, the next hire will probably be beginning of next year. And what I want is some kind of administrator to come into the business. With all the windows and doors stuff, to put it into perspective, that's one quote and it's lots and lots and lots of paper. And that's for 5 windows. And if I don't get that paperwork right and I don't have the trail in the right place, none of the insurances that I write out are worth a penny that they're worth. So what I really need is someone who can. I'm okay at organising 5 or 6 people at a time, but as the business inherently grows, because it's going to need to, I need someone that can organise all that paperwork, store it in the right places, not like I do at the moment where it gets to put it like this and into a folder. And then that folder goes into a filing cabinet and then I forget about it. I need someone to sort of help me grow the processes and all that kind of thing within the business. But also the quoting process just takes so long. So I as a human being have the means to quote maybe 5 or 6 houses worth of windows a day. Now, law of averages says that that's not enough quoting to build a business, because you're only going to win in this sort of realms 1 out of 10 jobs. So every other day you're going to win a job effectively, which if it's a job like this, I'm only going to earn 150 quid. I don't know many businesses that can survive off £300 a week. So we need to sort of understand the process to then ramp it up further. My ideal lead, without sort of lying to anyone, is I want the timber jobs, because I can make far more money on timber with the manufacturing that I work with than I can on buying from the UK. And also working with Leslie to earn me some money out of the euro as well.
Can you consider virtual assistants to help you with quoting?
I've got a massive trust issue. If they're in my business and I can see them doing something wrong, I find it way easier to approach that situation. Whereas I'm yet to find a virtual assistant that doesn't come across as they're great at driving efficiencies. I mean, I've had a VA sort out my inbox, for example, but that's as far as it got. Is I like to manage all those sort of little bits myself still, and I'm yet to find anyone that I'd be willing to trust full with that. And I don't really think I want an assistant. I think I want someone that would come in and work alongside me and make me better. Because I'm a salesman at heart, you know. I just want someone that can do me admin for me, but also is competent enough to pick up the phone and take on some of the sales stuff. And I just need someone like my wife.
Yeah.
That's not my wife, because I don't think she'd like me at work.
Geography, Dan. How far afield can you work? I mean, would it?
Wherever.
Yeah.
Geographically, I've got experience selling windows into France and Italy. So we can make it work, because 95% of what we have purchased comes to me here, and then I arrange onwards logistics from here to wherever they need to go. Because there's some building sites that have got forklifts, so I can get a different vehicle, some that need mechanical offloads, some that haven't got the access, and it's to rely on my suppliers to get that right. It's a nigh on impossible task. So for me, it's better for it to come here and for me to distribute it to the relevant places, wherever it necessarily needs to go. And therefore, it doesn't restrict us on where things need to go at all, because I can palletize things in certain ways to allow it to get picked up, dropped off in Southampton, and then get loaded onto a boat over to the Channel Islands or to France or to wherever. There's very little in the way of restrictions. It's quite difficult to get stuff into Scotland. The Scottish market is fraught with, how do I put this politely? Their building control are horrible. And there's a lot of stringent building regulations building in Scotland that we don't have in the UK. And the UK's building control matches that more of Europe. So here south is really good. Here north gets more and more difficult the further you get.
Okay, so if we were to look for other people to bring into the group that would help you and your business, what kind of people are we looking for?
Architects are really good. I really like architects. But then for me, it's net worth individuals are always good people to know. Anyone who's wants to build a house in a certain way, you don't want Joe Blogg's builder's merchant. You don't want me turning up today, for example, baseball cap on backwards. You want something a little bit more fluffy, I'll call it. And so I'm quite used to turning up in a very, very, those of you that haven't sort of seen me personally, I drive around in a car that looks far more expensive than it is. I've got a Volvo S90 thing. It's always clean, it's always tidy, and it's the sort of thing that, like Mark says, it's the first impressions that count. And if you're rocking up to to put it into perspective, the largest window order for a single house that I've ever done is of £127,000 worth of sliding sash windows. This house was on the St George's estate, I think it was, in Surrey, next door to Elton John's old house. It was some Russian billionaire. But if I'd have turned up in my beaten up red van that I drive around in 90% of my time, there's an illusion that we don't know what we're talking about. Whereas if I turn up as the salesman in the salesman car, there's an assumption that people seem to make about people like me. And then I come out and I always wear a nicely ironed shirt. Granted, when Mark met me, I only ironed the front. But yeah, I always wear a nice ironed shirt. I wear a nice pair of trousers and a posh pair of shoes that cost me far more money than I like to wear. Because it's the sort of things that I was always taught when I went into people's houses, not to look at them as people, but to look at their watches. Because you can tell a lot about someone's personality by the watch that they wear on their wrist. And it's that kind of mentality of look for the subtleties in the way that you're approached by a human being when you're asking someone to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on a product that you know full well that they can go out and they can buy a lot cheaper. You know, I can sell you this window, for example, and I can sell you a house load of windows for £35,000. But you know in yourself, you could go and get a plastic alternative and spend 10 grand. Why would you spend £20,000 more on this? And it's all down to the sort of the visual effect that the salesman comes in with and actually the benefits that you actually get. But you're not going to give me the time of day to talk about the benefits of this if I turn up looking UPVC. Ish. I'll make it work. I'm trying.
Very wise words. Very wise words. Okay, any more questions, guys?
One, just financial wise, do you offer finance packages for people to help buy their windows as well?
If you've got a limited company, we can work with you. We've got fully insured sort of credit facilities available if you're a limited company. If you're not, most of it's done through stage payments. So 9 times out of 10, our average sort of, we ask you for 40% up front. That allows us to place the order to get all the materials in and actually start producing. And then it's staged between that date and the installation date. And then the balance is paid 30 days after installation.
Okay, I was just wondering when if you're sitting in someone's house and you say it's going to cost £9,000 but £1,000 down and £600 for the next 4 years, it's done.
Yeah, the issue that we find with as an industry with that kind of thing is it brings on a clientele that, to be brutally honest, I'm not really interested in. Most of the people that I deal with just through the background are people that have got Coots bank accounts, for example.
Yeah.
So if there is it turns into a need that I have to offer that kind of thing, I'll look into it. Generally speaking, it costs me quite a lot of money to do it, so I then have to up my margins, which then makes me less competitive. So it's that swing and roundabout situation where we could do it. We've got the margin space to play with, but at the moment, I'm quite pleased with the fact that I'm sort of on average 20% cheaper than most other people. And I think everyone appreciates the fact that if you've got to find the money now and you're saving yourself 20%, I'd find the money now under most circumstances, because a bank loan is going to cost you less than that.
Yeah. Okay.
Dan, can I ask a question?
No.
No? All right. Now, with all the windows and doors, a silly question, I know, but I'm assuming the security is the same for each, or is the wood less secure than, say, for example, the UVPC?
So if you were to build a brand new house in the UK now, regardless of the window package that you put in, you have to meet what they call document Q. Document Q is effectively the security regulations for the UK for new build housing. So every single window needs to come and it be installed in a specific way, and effectively come with a bit of paper that says that it's had an attack test and no one's got in. They all meet the relevant bits of paper. 90% of them use the same hardware, whether you go for timber or plastic. You know, there's only a certain amount of manufacturers that make hinges and locks and keeps and all that kind of stuff. So 90% of the security element of it is actually dealt with by the suppliers of the sort of the hardware. But yeah, they all far surpass anything that needs to sort of be said. It's the least of my worries, as it were. We had an incident where in my last job, we had someone try and break into someone's house, shattered the glass, made an absolute mess, and we got it on CCTV. And in frustration, they had these nice little gargoyle things built into the outside of the house. He went to the van, got a sledgehammer out, and just smashed one of them off, and got back in the van and drove away. You're not getting in. It's the whole building regulation thing was brought in October 15 to basically take away planned burglary. So any burglaries after, I think they said 2025, they wanted to be opportunistic, so that effectively insurance companies can blame you.
Sounds about right. Thank you.